Hey guys, Pastor Tim here. Hope you're ready for another video from our youth group at Lighthouse Baptist Church. If this is your first time watching a video or you're trying to catch up on a missed lesson, we hope that this video is a blessing to you and helps you grow in your relationship with Jesus Christ.
All right, so we're kind of continuing on. You see up there, Time of Change, Part 2. We're continuing from last week, and we were talking about how during this time, obviously, during your teenage years is a time of a lot of change. Number one, most noticeably, we talked about physical change. Okay, we talked about it a little bit. Prime example is I remember like 2 summers ago when Jaden back there was shorter than me. And then just this last summer, he's all of a sudden like a complete head taller than me, all right? I don't think it's fair, but it's what happens sometimes in life. There's physical changes. We also talked about intellectual or mental changes. Somebody raise your hand. What is the, more specifically, not just your brain, but what about your body is still developing during this time? Joanna?
Frontal.
Your frontal lobe, which is responsible. Gentlemen, Locke? Decision making and future planning, things like that. Okay, so because of those things, you want to be careful in what you allow into your life in addition to your teenage years, like a relationship and so forth, while you're still growing in that aspect. Tonight we're going to cover one more thing, but then we're going to talk about, well, amongst all these changes, what are things that we usually do and what are things that we should do in regard to it. All right, so tonight we're going to start off with understanding emotional changes. Okay, save the drama for your mama, okay? But young adults, teenagers, they experience a variety of emotional changes during this time. And gentlemen is not just the ladies, although that seems to be the stereotypical thing for people to say. Yes, that is also an emotion, okay? Everyone has it for various reasons, all right? It all happens. And we already can consider some of the factors we've already talked about. Your body is changing, your brain is growing. But even beyond that, there's more pressure at school. Why is there more pressure at school? All right, Micah? All right, that. Anything else? Why else would there be more pressure at school as you grow older? Grades, peers. All right, the classes I would hope they get harder. Hopefully you guys are still not just in the 2+2 aspect of your schooling career. All right, hands down. Shh. All right, so there's more pressure at school. There's more responsibilities in life, all right? You have a busier schedule, and it's just going to get, I won't say necessarily gets busier, but your life just doesn't get less busy or less hectic, so to speak, the older you get. You can get better at managing it, okay? But don't think, oh, as soon as I'm done with school, all right, my life will be so much easier, because you have a lot more things that get on your plate after you're done with school, and I'm talking about even college. You have less sleep, all right, for various reasons, sometimes good, sometimes bad, those of you with phones and such, and sometimes you have less family time as well. All these things are factors that lead to a lot of emotional change. But sadly, even beyond that, there are many young people who face extreme, difficult home situations with like abuse, broken homes, and painful loss as well. All right, so all the things of life, it just leads to a lot of emotional upheaval. We're going to cover a couple of them here. Number one is changing relationships. And I'm not talking just about boyfriend or girlfriend. I'm talking about every relationship in your world changes during your teen years. All right, you have more responsibility and expectation. All right, and sometimes, I would say many times, that's a needed thing. All right, it's good if your parents start to raise the responsibility and the expectations of you as you continue to grow. If all your parents expect from you is just to eat and so forth and live, that's not a good thing, okay? And you should be at the point, even as you're now officially a teenager, even at the age of 13, where your parents don't have to ask you every time that when the trash is full to take out the trash, or to remember to brush your hopefully your parents aren't still asking, hey, do you brush your teeth today? All right? If that is the case, that's kind of sad, all right? Kind of funny at first, but if it continues, it's very sad, all right? Or did you take a shower? You guys understand the picture, okay? There are things as you mature that it is good and right that expectations and responsibilities begin to increase as well. It's when you when you refuse, there's two negatives to that. Number one is when you, like the young person, refuses to meet those expectations or chooses to run away from that responsibility. All right, kind of choosing not to grow up, so to speak. All right, another negative of it, though, is when a parent either raises the expectation too high or they hold on to it too stringently. Okay, and don't be thinking with that like, oh yeah, that's my parent or so forth. Just think of that as, hey, you in the future understand that your kid, your teenager is still a teenager. Yes, they should be growing, but you also have to give them some grace as well, because you as a parent, and you guys understand this with your own parents, you're not going to be perfect. Okay, guess what? There are adults out there, and I'm not talking about, poor excuses for adults. I'm talking about your good, average, responsible, everyday adult who does have problems sometimes with taking out the trash when they need to take it out, or who does at times, because they're busy, forget, oh man, to shower the other day, or they left work because they were in a hurry and they forgot to brush their teeth. Okay, not saying it happens all the time, but you're not perfect. Okay, so your relationships change. Okay, people expect you to grow up. All right, even though you're not completely ready for it. You also have a desire for acceptance during this time. Acceptance and identity is very much a hot topic. Your identity, what do you identify as? More than ever, your life is filled with insecurity and a need for acceptance during your teen years and your young adult years as well. Pretty much from the time you're in high school, middle school to high school, even through college, you're always going to have this, it's definitely a time that's characterized by wanting or desiring some form of acceptance, whether it's because through your clothing, through pop culture, or having a boyfriend or a girlfriend, okay? And I've expressed before, if that the only reason you want to be in a relationship is to be accepted by other people who are also in relationships, that's a poor reason to get into a relationship. All right? Pretty much being cool really just means being accepted, all right? No matter what avenue of life that may be, okay? But God desires to be your stability throughout these teen years. He desires to give you friendships and influences that strengthen you toward Him and not pull you away from Him, okay? So, you have changing relationships. You have a desire for acceptance that lead to these emotional changes. Give a second as I see people are still scribbling things. 3, 2, 1, boom. All right, next one. Romantic attractions increase. All right, yes, during your teen years, that's when you start to have your crushes and so forth. And romantic attractions is a thing. Obviously, as we've mentioned before, guys up front, all right, as we mentioned before, this life change is made worse by the assault of a culture that an information age obsessed with sex, okay? Don't get all your information from that, okay? Especially when you're starting to have these feelings. We talked about it before, best to go to your godly authorities, the people who've been there before to help navigate through these feelings as well. All right, so you have romantic attractions increase, and then you have fears of the future, all right? What's coming up in the future for you guys? College. What else is coming up in the future for you guys? Possibly. Well, hopefully jobs is something that's coming up. Marriage, families. What? Yes, you're gonna be this big time career person that gets stranded on the roadside in a small country town, and you've somehow entered yourself into a baking competition. And oh my word, you're gonna write the script for your own.
Have you been watching?
Yeah. Not lately. Christmas wasn't too long ago. It happens, guys. All right.
Christmas is all year round, by the way.
All right. All right. Anyway, we all know how that goes. All right, but there's fears of the future. You mentioned it. College, all right, family, marriage, things like that, job. All right, what am I going to do? And if you're not careful, this can make it an easy choice to choose not to grow up. I mentioned before, running away from responsibility, shirking away from expectations. That may sound weird, especially to many of you, where you might have these aspirations of like, this is what I would like to do, or this is what I would like to be in the future. All right, come on in. Shh. All right, but more and more young people or young adults are choosing not to grow up, even into their 20s and yes, even into their 30s. Okay, they don't want to leave home, gentlemen. Now, granted, Things may happen that may necessitate this, but I hope by the time you guys are 30, you're not comfortable with still living at home. Okay, you should want to rise to the level of responsibility, expectation, at least go out on your own, not waiting until you get married, but hey, I'm going to be my own man. I'm going to be responsible for myself. Ladies, same thing with you as well, all right? As you continue to grow, you want to meet those changes head on and those responsibilities and not refuse to grow up. Another one that I've seen a lot before is people who are scared to drive, okay? Now, am I saying you shouldn't be scared to drive? No, all right, that's a normal fear to have at some points where, hey, driving's a scary thing, okay? But, all right, guys, in the future, gentlemen, if you come in late, come in this door. That way you're not coming across, okay? Go. All right, so it's a normal fear to have, okay? But, hey, in today's society, unless you're living in a big city and stuff like that, it's necessary, really, to learn to drive, all right? To be able to do things to provide for yourself, to make a living, all right? Because not everyone's going to be able to work at home. And that also, all right, you can look at studies about this as well, but that's also kind of a sign of a refusal to grow up, all right, is when people want to try to find, because of COVID, it's more abundant. People are simply trying to find ways that, that I could still work at home, all right? And they make up excuses in their minds about, this health reason or that, but reality is I don't want to go out. They're more comfortable at home. They don't have to talk to people. They don't have to deal with people. Guys, as you grow up, as you become more responsible, if you want to attain things that are worth working for, guess what that requires? Interacting with people. All right? Don't let a fear of interaction keep you from growing up. See, many people see the failures that they see happen around them, and that may keep them from wanting to grow up as well. All right, so we understand these are all things that lead to understanding emotional changes. All right, what do we usually do? Okay, and I'm going to just put it all up here for you guys really quickly. All right, first, it's no wonder as a teenager, during all these changes, physical, intellectual, mental, and emotional, it's no wonder that a guy-girl relationship seems so great at this time. All right, I need to be with somebody. Right? Remember, we talked about that need for acceptance. Oh, if I have a special someone, that means I'm accepted. That means someone cares for me. And you kind of forget the fact that you have a family that cares for you. But, nothing's greater than that. I want to be a relationship. I need to be in a relationship. What better way to deal with this time than to have a special someone? You're accepted, you're liked, you're loved and cared about, no matter all the changes you're going through. All right? But this is a really bad time to have a serious guy-girl relationship, as in an exclusive relationship. And we kind of talked about this last week. When you distance yourself and you have that unbalanced life where you distance yourselves from the people who are there to help you most, like your parents, your youth pastor, godly authorities in your life, it's a bad time to exclude yourself from everyone else who's going to help you navigate and grow through these teen/young adult years. Too often, young relationships become too much too soon, all right? Because you're not mature enough to, when I say that, guys, understand I'm always talking in generalities here. I know some people are more mature than others, but in general, when you're only 14, 15, 16, whatever it may be, you're not mature enough to understand restraint at times, to not let your young relationship become too much too soon. It's because it's so much easier to justify if I push the line a little bit that way, like, really not that bad. And when you're comfortable with that, you can just push it a little bit more and, it's all right, it's not that bad. All right? That's why it's important to exercise some restraint, all right, and follow those godly influences in your life, authorities in your life, instead of just excluding yourself from them. So that's what we usually do. What should we do? And this is our last point. Obviously, the first one is pretty obvious. You want to spend more time with God, okay? Now, something that is great to do when you are in a serious relationship and when you are married is to have devotions together. That's awesome. But I will, and this isn't like a biblical, like you must do that. This is just my personal recommendation. But when you're teenagers, when you're still young, all right, don't justify spending exclusive time with that guy or that girl by saying, oh, but we're spending time in God's Word, okay? Let that be you and God's time, especially when you're young. Let that be you and God's time. And then when you guys get older and when you enter that serious relationship, when you have the better understanding of why I'm in this relationship, and especially in marriage, spend that time together in God's Word. When you guys have your own families, all right, have family time in God's Word together as a family on a regular basis. All right, God is going to help provide you that settled heart, stable emotions, and a secure identity as well. I think I have a couple of verses there for you. 1 Peter 5:7 talks about casting all your care upon Him, for He careth for you. All right, not first casting it upon that also young teenage relationship. No, cast it upon God first. Hebrews 13:9 talks about not to be carried away by strange doctrines, all right, or worldly philosophies. All right, just because the world says this is okay, just because your favorite teen romance movie says this is okay, doesn't mean it's actually okay. Don't be carried away by that. All right, what does God's Word say instead? And someone find for me really quickly 2 Thessalonians 3:3. Lock.
But the Lord is faithful. The Lord is faithful, who shall establish you and keep you from evil.
Yes, God is faithful. Even in adult marriages, all right, we understand there's unfaithfulness. All right, it happens. But God, as the verse says there, God is always faithful. All right, who better to establish ourselves on than God, who is also known as the Rock, rather than an adolescent relationship with another teenager. All right, so number one, spend more time with God. Number two, under that, spend time with family. All right, this is the support that God intends for you. Yes, I understand that in the world there are imperfect families. And I mean by that, not just, yes, every family is imperfect, but there are very imperfect families, broken homes, or families that maybe the children want to live for God, but the parents don't really care and they don't foster that kind of environment to help them grow. I understand that exists. But God has always intended from the beginning, now it's obviously marred by sin, but God always intended for the family to be that main support for the children, and that includes the teenagers as well. You need time with your parents and godly authorities. Make it a priority to spend time with them and listen to their advice. Make your time count because it's not going to last. All right? I'm not saying that to be like, doom and gloom, but guys, there's going to come a day when you're not going to be able to text your mom whenever you want. Okay? And there's going to come a day when you can't call up your dad when you need advice or when something's broken and you don't know how to fix it. All right? Appreciate your parents. Cherish them. Spend time with them. Not just, especially as a teenager when you're living with them. I know there can be a tendency to I want to do my own thing and stay cooped up in your room and stuff like that. Just be in their presence sometimes. Tell them you love them. Hey, ask if you can do something with them. They'll be shocked probably. But especially even when you become an adult and you're on your own, Miss Christine's great at this. I'm terrible at it. Okay? But she calls her parents like every other day. You don't have to be that much. But she makes it a very point to be consistent in calling her family, her grandma, her aunt, and stuff like that. And she's always getting on to me like, hey, when's the last time you called your brother? We were in the car the other day, and my phone's up on the holder thing, and she's just like, saw my brother Mike's, okay. I have my brother Mike, and my phone is Pudgy, all right? And so she saw Pudgy on the screen. She's like, do you talk to Mike recently? And I'm like, no. So she just clicked his name right then and have him call. I'm like, I don't know. And we had a good conversation, all right? I acknowledge I need to be better at that, okay? It's an important thing because it's not always going to last, all right? So cherish it now. Take advantage of it now, especially as you're growing, but still take advantage of it even when you guys are grown and out of the house. And then lastly, so we have spend time with God, spend time with family, all right? Lastly, you want some comic relief. Learn to laugh at yourself, all right? All right, stop that. Stop it. All right, everyone look up here really quickly. What I mean by this is I do not mean that you have to be self-deprecating of yourself, especially when it comes to relationships. It can become very easy to be like, oh, I'm not deserving of a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or even if you are in a relationship and this is not healthy, thinking, oh, I'm not deserving of this person or that person. All right, don't let that be. When I'm talking about learn to laugh at yourself is understand you're growing. There's changes. You're going to have your awkward moments. Guys, you're going to probably have a moment when you're trying to shoot your shot with some girl in the future and you're going to fail miserably, all right? Don't let it keep you from ever wanting to get out there again. Shake it off. Learn, hey, stuff happens. Understand God has a better plan for you if that does fail. Proverbs 17:22 says, a merry heart maketh good like a medicine. All right? You're going to have your awkward moments, especially as a teen. All right? You're going to have your moments when you mess up and fail, and not just in regards to relationships and stuff like that. But it's made a lot easier by not, number one, not taking yourself too seriously. And number two, understanding despite the mistakes and the awkward situations that happen, you have a God that still loves and cares for you, all right, who has a good and perfect will intended for you that's still out there in the future. All right, so shake it off, learn to laugh and be like, all right, yeah, that happened, and just keep going. You guys follow me there? All right, yeah, it's good to learn to laugh at yourself, laugh with your family, all right, 'cause guess what? 5 years, 7 years down the line, you're going to look back at that situation and be like, oh man, I got a funny story for you. Back when I was 15 or 16, and guys, that's perfectly normal, and that's actually really good. All right, so the good news is you will survive this whole period of time. From high school, middle school, even through college, you will survive it, all right, if you do what you're supposed to do. Spend time with God, learn to grow in Him, spend time with your family, learn how to navigate through this time of life through your godly authorities, and learn to laugh at yourself throughout all the ups and downs and mishaps as well, all right? But especially in following God, He's going to help lead you and guide you to, if it is His will, that possible future wonderful husband, wonderful wife, okay? But there's no need to jump the gun, all right? Be patient, be balanced, as we talked about before, all right? God has a plan for you.